Boomer.
Get out the way!
Guys, I like anime again.
I used to struggle with anime so much. I shouldn't have been looking at what's popular right now. All kinds of tripe comes out of Japan all the time. But it's the anime boomers who've had it right since the beginning. In case you haven't been graced by the best thing since dying painlessly, Berserk is a manga from '92 and an anime from '97. It's so dark, so violent, so malignant and offensive that they had to publish it in a young adult magazine instead of a kid's one. If that doesn't sound scary, try being a YouTuber. I recently watched through the entire classic Berserk anime and also got into the games, of which there are 3, which are not of the same quality as the show. Yeah, no. The show's about Guts, that's Guts, and all the wacky, silly friends he makes on his long journey through life. Now what you gotta understand about Guts is that he is the angriest man on the planet. And I'd be angry too if my series was left unfinished for so long that 3 games came out over nearly 20 years and the series still isn't finished. With that and a massive spoiler warning, I'm not kidding, the series is good, go watch. Let's get f***ing angry! It's primitive, it's ugly, it's gross, it was released in '98 in Japan and 2000 in America. The Dreamcast title, Sword of the Berserk, Guts Rage, or as it was first known, Berserk Millennium Falcon Arc, Chapter of the Flowers of Oblivion. This game has an original story featuring familiar characters. Original like Pippi Longstocking getting harassed by Dumbos. Familiar like Guts making a big ol' mess. Starting hot right off the bat. Alright, let's just check my stats real quick. There we go. At first glance, the gameplay's really simple. A big dumb weed whacker kind of thing. Call of Duty cut the people, you know? It doesn't take long for that charm to fade. Firstly, because about a third of the playtime is cutscenes. No joke. Sometimes like 8 back-to-back cutscenes. It's but you need cutscenes, right? Berserk may be all about strength 20 int 1 guts here, but the story of the dude's life is really compelling. Anyway, where's the antagonist so I can kill him too?
I'm Balzac.
Right, gameplay. The game is a series of stages and boss fights, none of which are incredibly difficult, so instead they are incredibly annoying. You got your sword, you can leap like a flailing psycho, you're packing serious consumable heat like BLAM! And you've got fists. Let's break it down. Most of the levels are cramped. That really sucks because Guts has a sword the size of Spain. And about as deep as the royal bloodline. Ugh. You're constantly clanging the thing off walls, so proper sword combat often goes out the window. Sometimes punching enemies to death is legitimately the best strategy. The best, long, and boring strategy. Consumables help. Bombs and the cannon arm are great get-off-me tools, and you can heal yourself or chuck a crappy little dagger, so that's neat. But none of that solves the problems with combat. Now, you can enter a Berserk mode where Guts gets really pissed off and swings faster, doesn't get interrupted, and best of all, ignores wall collisions, so you can actually kill things. The problem is you don't control this, it just happens. Not a fan, but it's still the thing that turns the tide in your favor most often. And I want to emphasize that if you take anything away from this video, it's that these games are anger and release simulators. You will get angry playing this game. Mashing, clanging, having your hit points chipped away by attacks you can barely react to, but then that rage mode hits and you just start slamming the button and screaming in rage until your thumb hurts. Productive? No. Cathartic? Like a little bit. Now there is a secret technique that I will bestow upon you, the greatest move of our time specifically designed to rend your foes asunder. A jump attack. So aerial moves have no wall collision either, and it's pretty safe in the air, so spamming jump attacks, although it's tricky to aim, is often the best move possible and will win you the entire game. However, there is one technique known only by the chosen few, the KBash subscriber clan, that will bring glory to your name and riches to your home. It is... You can run away from almost every fight in the game, excluding boss fights and scripted scenes. You can save so much time and thumb damage by just leaping away. Leap on, you pasty orangutan bastard. The game has a few boss fights, none of them are very hard, but they're significant. I really liked the Zod fight. It forced me to make use of all my abilities, stay strategic and aggressive, as it should be. You gotta love just wailing on these gigantic freaks only to be met with next level slapstick. Did you see that shit? Hey, Guts, what you looking at? Oh my god! Ew, kill it! What the? Who made this gross plant baby? Someone had to model that! Okay, bye! This game is crazy! So that's all fun and silly, but the game has its bad moments too, like, the stupid hole you fall in that's framed like a battle because, you know, endless spawning enemies and all the corners are really dark like you're in an arena, but it turns out you have to dig around the walls to find the exit, this practically black hole in the wall. Super cool, guys! I spent like 20 minutes here, so you! You only have like 5 continues per level, and if you die, you're going all the way back. This is especially cool because of the instant death quick time event. So if you ever thought, wow, Resident Evil 4 is such bullshit, Berserk kills you in like 1 hit, maybe you should play this game then. That was not so bad. Speaking of which, I do actually get a really Resident Evil 4 vibe from this game. You know, maybe it's the village with the plant people packing 10 gallons of blood in their veins. Oh, this smothering hallway. Not a single challenge in any of these games is as tough as this hallway. You just have to make it through without getting crushed by giant roots. Simple enough, but the turning is so specific, and your jump is so completely directionally locked. And if you make one mistake, you're dead. You will become the hallway master. I could do this scene in my sleep. It's seared on my brain, this level. But after everything this game has to offer, every jaw-clenching, teeth-grinding challenge, we can fight the final boss. See, the hard part about the final boss, right? The thing that really makes this stand out in a game as barbaric and violent as this is that... Wait, that was it?! Berserk Millennium Empire Arc, Chapter of the Holy Demon War.
That's a game title you could sell your parents.
Now I know what you're thinking, KBash, this game is Japanese and it's in English on your screen. That's weird. What gives, KBash? This game is, look, it's all style, no substance. And I don't want to say that because if I'm being honest, this probably is the best Berserk game. I mean, just look at the thing. Yeah, it's not incredible next-gen graphics, but for PS2, this looks insane. The animations are so detailed and flowing, it seriously looks like Guts is killing demons as realistically as possible. The textures aren't perfect, and the levels are huge and bland and peppered with cutscenes, and really there isn't much game here. And yet I remember it fondly for a reason. The gameplay is just as simple as before, but with an emphasis on blocking and other defensive maneuvers. All told, it looks cool, but kinda sucks. You're gonna be mashing sword attacks into swaths of demons. Everything under the sun, you know, snow piles, undead, dogs, holy shit! Oh my god, what the fuck? Are these actually dogs? Hold on. Welcome to the long-lost Halloween episode of the KBash Show. I hate all of these. What is wrong with you, Kentaro Miura? What's going on, man? The developers made some improvements over the last game. The once consumable items are now on a cooldown timer, which is just better. It feels balanced and not overpowered, like a boost of caffeine every once in a while. You can also summon a bunch of Guts' wacky friends, you know, from the part of the series that gets a little cartoony. And they'll do an ability, like an AoE attack, heal you, or stop time. The biggest thing, I think, is giving the player the ability to control Berserk mode, so no more random activations. You choose when it's best. And that's a good design note. Even if one is more realistic, that won't necessarily make a better game. This time around, there's a huge focus on boss fights. They happen all the time. Seriously, there's like 16 of these. Some are easy, some are way too hard if you ask me, but all of them, along with the generic gameplay, emphasize the concept of struggle that's so inbuilt with Guts' character. This man struggles through every single thing. Himself, his friends, his purpose, the world in general. He has a brand on his skin that'll attract demons to him until he dies. Part of what makes Berserk so compelling is the concept that the protagonist, no matter how awful the situation or uneven the odds, is willing to fight and scream and claw his way through every last problem life throws at him. That's where my appreciation comes from. The gameplay is a huge slog, but it feels like it's worth it. Leveling up, unlocking new abilities, and man, those boss fights. I think it's when you're entrenched in a murky stream of waist-deep water, mashing the attack button, dodging, taking hits, blocking and countering, eventually ripping open wounds on a boss and watching their entrails spill out that you become Guts. You feel the struggle and you hate it. but you grit your teeth and slash that bastard like it's all you know. That's good game design. The absolute pathos of it is incredible. Notably, boss fights highlight certain gameplay aspects that make them more satisfying inherently. Guarding is fine and all in typical gameplay, but there's no real reason to do it between dodging and slashing, but during boss fights, you're gonna need to block, and even more likely gonna need to counter by timing your block appropriately. The window is pretty big and it's spammable, but you can do all these cool animations and moves by spamming block, and I think that's pretty cool. And eventually you'll need to do it right or lose. And when you get that clutch victory on the verge of death cause Zod's jamming his sword down your throat, you feel like you transcended mortality. Occasionally battering the bosses grants you access to special execution moves and you get unique cutscenes for each boss. Just the level of polish in this game, as bland as it usually is, makes it so worth it. Look at how cool this is, Jesus! You know, it's like I said, this game's incredibly inappropriate, but incredibly cool. Like when Guts slips and falls down on the demon lady. Oh no, Guts, that was a banana peel you slipped on. What are you doing? Now with a game this bland, except in boss fights, you'd expect a boss rush mode. And there is. And other modes too, like what? 100 animal murder? 100 animal murder? Oh, it's just a challenge mode. Legit, I was scared Guts was gonna be killing cows and horses or something. Not like he doesn't already do that though. And now, having saved the worst for last, Berserk, Band of the Hawk. A Warriors game. This game's a treasure. If you like Musou games and you haven't watched Berserk, it's not a terrible way to experience the series, given it's exactly what you'd expect from the franchise interspersed with clips from the movie, and a lot of it's set in the Golden Age arc, you know, the one that was never matched for its character development and meaningful exchanges between beloved characters. Shame about that. Unfortunately, this is a Tecmo Koei game, right? And it was released kind of at the height of their insane warrior game clone spree. Seriously, everything's warriors. The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the Sengoku period of Japanese history, the Legend of Zelda, One Piece, Fire Emblem, this shit, Fist of the North Star, Gundam, when does it stop? Berserk could not escape the fatal tide of the Warriors franchise, and all things considered, it's competent. I mean, by far, it's one of the most average I've ever played. If you want to try one, I recommend Warriors Orochi 3 or the One Piece games, but it gets the job done. It's bloody, it's just as sloggy as the last game for different reasons, but for what it's worth, it's pretty sometimes. Actually, a lot of the time. I'm shocked by how good this game looks for a Warriors clone. Seriously, it's rare that they run at 60 FPS and look awesome. At least in my experience. But the main issue is content. There's all kinds of missions, tons of stuff to do, but I don't want to do it. Like, they made this game in an arc with a bunch of characters, and yeah, you can play a bunch of those characters for like 5 out of 46 chapters. The rest of the time you're stuck with Guts, which isn't terrible, right? I like Guts, he gets new moves as you play, but seriously, it gets old. And maybe that's from playing all these games back to back, but it's not like the enemies have the same level of animation and interaction as the PS2 games. I mean, look at them jiggle physics, yeah, fuck you! The characters have side weapons on a cooldown like the last game. Honestly, all the characters are standouts here for actually being playable. Like, there will never be another game where you can play as Casca, Judo, Griffith, Zod, though? That's the real crime, right? Making all these complex and interesting movesets for all these classic characters, and hardly any of them get any playtime in the main story. It's insane. If you want to have fun with anybody, you're regulated to free mode, so you know, grinding over previously completed content with new characters, or endless Eclipse mode, where you can spend seemingly endless time doing silly challenges and killing increasingly powerful enemies until you don't want to play anymore or your character can't make it through. It's kind of depressing. The joy of the Musou games I played before was unlocking tons of new characters and trying them all out. But with only 8 playable characters, the game's actual novelty limit is super low. And that kind of sucks for a game where the major draw is endlessly grinding on hordes of harmless enemies. Because you'll run out of cool moves to do in about 5 minutes and be stuck wondering how in the hell they thought they could publish a game this beautiful and this long with so little actual depth. For a piece of fan content, it isn't bad, mind you. There's all kinds of costumes, you fight a bunch of recognizable battles, warped as they are in the Warriors format. Like, Guts is famous for killing 100 men in a single battle by himself. Oh, Guts, I think you got carried away, my friend. So what innovations to the Warriors format have Tecmo Koei brought to the table to make the game worth it? What's the spin? Aside from the cutscenes, equipped items? What? Yeah, in Musou games, you generally gather and strengthen weapons that give your character new properties and stats, and this game's the same, but instead of letting you unlock cool weapons to swing, which would have been great for a game with 8 characters, you just get passive stat increasing trinkets and I guess horses, which, like, if you're using a horse in a Warriors game, what are you even doing? It's a massive disappointment all around, but the game was selling for full retail for a huge amount of time. In fact, I think it was full retail until just this year. Sure, it's probably because sales sucked, because why would anybody buy a game this average for full retail? But now I'm finding out the Steam version is maybe, possibly not gonna work for machines using Windows 7 because Microsoft and the company are cutting support for that system, and it's like, really guys, really? That's why you're cutting the price. You couldn't just cut because the game sucks. So that's it. Here we are in hell, grinding on monsters for all eternity. I guess it was too much to expect any sort of release for Guts in his series about struggle. Too much to expect any kind of a solid 8 out of 10 game. Too much to have fun for longer than 5 minutes. It's just so depressing. Yo, what the fuck? Oh my god, yeah! Let's go!